A world not priced in US dollars. How things will be priced in satoshis or Bitcoin as a global currency. Brandon Gentile here. This is an incredibly important video because this is how the world will look. Many people ask, what will it look like? How if people say Bitcoin and 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin because people always say the price goes down. It's not an inflation hedge. Look, you're wrong. Brandon, Michael Saylor, Robert Breedlove, whoever it is, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Look, the price went down. And what many Bitcoiners say is 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. And what that means is the future. The future in that world, the Bitcoin itself, or one Satoshi, or the divisible unit of Bitcoin, Satoshis, will be the only thing that matters. Now, you may have fiat currencies that are priced as well alongside that, just like you have in many parts of the world where you have the US dollar price and you've got maybe the local currency price. And those things happen, obviously. We'll probably have that, and maybe it just becomes a world global currency, and Bitcoin is the price for everything, as the New World Order predicted it would be, just not in their control how they thought it would be. It's going to be in our control. So let's break this down and talk about what exactly this will be like and spend a couple minutes on it. The beauty of a debit card, but greater security than a credit card. Imagine traveling all over the world, or even going from country to country in Europe, or possibly even the States. The States break apart here in America, or in other parts of the world, when you're going and hopping borders, and being able to pull out your phone and pay instantaneously, final settlement, uncensorable, immutable, faster than credit cards, and paying no fees for a customer or merchant. No Venmo, no PayPal, no Zelle, no dollar exchanges, no foreign currency exchanges, nothing. The entire world, just like how gold has a spot price across the world, and people know that price everywhere. Jewelry collectors, jewelry, merchants, people all over the world, and the people in developing countries know that much more than people in developed countries. So they know that price, and that's a global price. That's exactly how the Bitcoin standard will look. So let's talk about that and what that looks like. Imagine being able to use a global currency that you can use anywhere in the world with an internet connection, and even without an internet connection. However, 99% of people will always be using it with an internet connection. It wasn't too long ago that the New World Order, as I mentioned, was trying to usher in its global one world currency. And they've been trying to do this for years, for decades. They are still trying to do that very thing. Like we talked about before, the mark of the beast is the central bank digital currencies, the CBDCs that they're trying to roll out. India just announced it in November. They're rolling theirs out. China's been doing that with their social credit scores. Complete surveillance state, slave coins. This is what they are trying to do. But Satoshi Nakamoto had something up his or her, their sleeves that shook the world's power structure to its core. And we are living in the ripple effects of that now. Power back to the people and out of the hands of a few oligarchs. Something that those oligarchs, the unproductive class, if you will, could not envision and did not see coming, that would change all this forever. Turning the power structure forever from the few global families, those oligarchs, to the average individual, to you and me, to John and Jane Doe. What is in a Bitcoin? A Satoshi is the divisible unit of Bitcoin. There are 100 million Satoshis, or sats, in every single Bitcoin. And again, you can see the units of measurement here. This is the global currency. This is what you now can fly from New York, from Detroit, from LA, and fly to the other side of the world, to Thailand, wherever you want to go, and immediately pay over the Lightning Network instantaneously. And this is your unit. This is what you're using, and this is what everyone is operating with, the same standard. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin mined, which mining of new coins ends around the year 2140. As you can see here below is the issuance schedule. Now, we have 12 people at the Federal Reserve here, the largest bank in the Central world, that just completely, at the flip of the switch, just changes monetary policy. They're going to go change interest rates here, change interest rates there. We're going to print more currency. We're going to print less. We don't know what we're doing. Reverse repo, repurchase agreements. We're going to do just regular repurchase agreements. We have no idea what we're doing at any given time. How are you supposed to live like that? How are you supposed to buy groceries, pay your utility bills, run a business? Project what's going on, pay your payroll, your employees. How are you, we have a lot of people going right now. Robert Reich, old labor secretary, a cabinet level position in this country about 5-10 years ago, and he is out there spewing misinformation left and right. I mean, either it's just willful, blatant, misinformation, or he doesn't know what's going on. Either way, it's not good. But he's continually saying that the tail wags the dog, that the companies, their profits they're making go all to the employees, and the crazy profits a couple of these companies have in the country are the result of, or the reason we have inflation. When in reality, we know that's not the case. We know Milton Friedman, many of the smartest minds ever have always said and told us exactly what inflation is. Inflation, before they changed the definition, again, weird how they did that, is a monetary phenomenon anywhere and everywhere. It's government printing of currency. You can't have this happen if government isn't printing and constantly expanding and distorting the currency supply. Then these things don't happen. So what happens is, brief example again, these companies, whether it's oil companies, whatever, they're trying to get in front of the inflation costs. When you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what interest rates are going to be, you don't know how much currency is floating through the system, how are you going to do anything, right? Your job is to stay in business, is to keep yourself employed, is to keep your employees employed, is to keep your rigs working, your machines working, your trucks running. That's what you are, as a business owner, trying to make a profit, to stay in business and provide a better product for people. So that's where people don't understand. People like Robert Reich, Secretary Reich, or these other people that are constantly getting themselves worked up about corporate profits. We need to have excess windfall profit taxes. Where do you think that goes? That profit then gets rolled into and goes into the economy. Whether it's a billionaire or a trillionaire or a millionaire putting it in a bank account, that gets then relent by those banks. And again, newsflash, a lot of those don't go into bank accounts. Wealthy people have, they're buying other assets, right? So that's going back into the economy. Whether, or if they just stuff it in an insurance policy, something like that, a whole life policy, guess what? That's getting reinvested in the market as well. So no matter how you look at it, they're either putting it back in their business, which is what a lot of them do. They reinvest back in their business to keep innovating and keep being creative, and then make sure they don't go out of business and keep one step ahead of things. Or the person takes it, and the vast majority of people aren't just stuffing under a mattress. That's the only way maybe you could say it's deflationary, which then again, that would also raise the standard of living and lower the cost of things if you had just money just stuffed under a mattress, but that's neither here nor there. So any way you look at it, that's how you know when you're coming from first principles, that's how you know you're looking from things in the wrong direction. So someone's saying that, the secretary and many of his followers, there's tens of thousands of people that follow his stuff and like his stuff and believe that. From every direction you look at it, they're wrong. That profit goes somewhere and it's doing something, and it's constantly moving. It's moving. It keeps making its way to smarter people and smart money that then moves that again and makes money on that. And it's constantly moving, the velocity of money. When you have low velocity, that's generally when it's stuffed in a bank, and then the banks don't lend it out. That's when you really have problems. If people just stuff in a bank and it just sits there and does nothing, or you stuff it under a mattress, which again is not a big percent of the population. How many people do you know that have cash stuffed on their mattress? And again, you see it a little more now because times are crazy. You're going to see it a little more, but as a percentage of the cash, it's 1/millionth of 1% probably of all the cash, or 1/10 of 1%, or whatever you want to call it. So that again, those arguments don't hold any water, because we know that again, that cash goes into the system. There's zero. When March 2020 hit, they dropped the reserve requirements. What a bank is required to reserve. So when you go put $100 in, there used to be like a 10% requirement, which is insane in itself. But anyway, you would go in, they only had to keep 10% of that, and they could lend out the other $90. Well, when March 2020 hit, that dropped it to zero. So when you go put $100 in the bank, they can lend out 100% of it. They can lend out all $100. So meaning if you come back to the bank, that's why when you go back to the bank, I've had many people come to me and say, "Oh my goodness, Brandon, the things you've talked about, I didn't believe all of it." Or someone say, "Hey, I believed it, and I went to the bank and pulled my cash out, and they wouldn't let me." Or they say, "Come back another day, set an appointment." And then some people say, "Hey, I didn't believe you, and then I went to the bank and I tried to pull out money, or my cash, and then the bank almost shut down." Because they're like, "Did you have an appointment? Who said you could take out 5 or 10 grand?" And they're like, "It's my money." Well, again, the reserve requirements are zero right now, so they don't have to have any of your currency. And when you legally put your money in a bank, it's no longer yours. That's another thing. It's a different story for a different day, but it's not yours anymore. So these are all things that, unless you know what's going on in the system, it's going to make very little sense. And again, this is why this is so important, and this is why I constantly talk about this. This is why the money is the root of all evil. All the evil things you're seeing, 99% of it is emanating from the corruption of money. The lack of God, the loss of God, obviously, what comes first? So the loss of God, and then the corruption of money, or the corruption of money, and then people lose faith in God. I don't know. You tell me. That's a story for a different day, and another write-up we'll have. That's a larger project. But that, and again, if you don't believe in God, it's a higher power, it's a higher being, it's something. It's humility. It's saying, hey, there's something bigger than me. I'm just on this little speck of dust on this pale blue dot in the grand universe. We have to have something bigger than us. There's just no doubt about it. You have to. Whether it's God, I don't know what you believe in, but you got to believe in something. Because, each of us, we're nothing. From dust we came, and from dust to dust we shall return. There's no truer statement. So Again, that's why these arguments don't hold weight. It's very important to understand where we're going, where we come from. But again, these arguments that, it's the tail wagging the dog and that inflation is caused by price gouging and things like that. Again, like I said, it's only one of two things. Either you're, just blissfully ignorant, which is, think about that. You were a cabinet level position, Secretary Reich, my goodness. Or you're just blatantly deceiving people, which that's not a good thing either. And, again, that's politics. That's what's going on. And we, as we know, we shared many times, Jonathan Gruber, talk about another Obama, czar cabinet level position. He was the one that famously said, we've shared many times, we love the lack of transparency and opaqueness because, call it the stupidity of the American voter. We can do what we want. We can screw people over. We can get things passed without people understanding what's going on. People don't do 3 minutes of homework to figure out what's going on. So let's do our homework. Let's do our homework. Let's get educated and understand what's going on, what's happening. This is so important, and this is money. And we're going to talk about this in a second quickly about what money truly is, because I think that, again, if people understand what that is in just a couple minutes, then everything else makes sense. Again, there will only be 21 million ever mined, and it ends at 2140. And like I said, we know the issuance. Talk about a world where you have deflationary money, so your living standard gets higher and the costs go down, and you know exactly what's happening every 4 years. You know the issuance of currency. We don't have that now. We have anything but that. And that's the insane world we live in, the clown world we live in, and that's why things continually get more distorted. Unlike Bitcoin, we have an issuance schedule. We know what's happening. There's a constant. There's no variables. It is what it is, and people can peg their life to that. They can live off that, and they can make plans off that, make future, inventions, creations, planning, business decisions, retirement off of a fixed, finite constant. It is said that there are already 3 to 4 million Bitcoin lost forever, because many people in the early days lost their coins or threw away the hard drives with their keys, their private keys on them, and they are gone forever. And again, another quick thing, Bitcoin, when you have a hardware wallet or something like that, the Bitcoin itself doesn't go to your hardware wallet. You just hold the key to sign off on who owns the Bitcoin on the blockchain. So the Bitcoin always stays on the chain, but people hold their key, their private key, and that gives you the authority and denotes who has the ability to sign off on transactions and sign off and who owned those Bitcoin. So that's what the ledger is constantly being updated and putting new blocks in of who's accepting what and who's acquiring Bitcoin and who's selling their Bitcoin off and signing it away. That's with the 30-second explanation, that's what's going on. Again, for math purposes, among others, it makes sense to still use a 21 million supply cap. Knut Svanholm has a great book called Bitcoin, Everything Divided by 21 Million. And it's no better way to explain it. Bitcoin is the control in the experiment. Everything in the world will be divided by that. But again, in saying that, it just makes your brain think clearer and easier and say, oh my goodness, everything I know can be divided by 21 million now, because that is the finite constant. It is the variable-less asset. It is the only thing that we can divide everything by and produce the same results, and know there's no variables, there's nothing that's goalpost moving, and we know it's going to be the same thing every time. It's the correct denominator. As his logo is infinity, the infinity sign divided by 21 million. So every single time you can get correct, reasoned reality answers and results every single time. Like I said, this is a control in the experiment. The important thing to note is that there will never be more. That's the most important thing to note. Unlike the currencies we have now, fiat currencies, which is just constantly printed into oblivion. So that denominator is always changing. That's why the asset prices look like they're growing all the time, because the denominator is constantly being debased and just constantly going up and up and up. So it looks like asset prices are going up. All it is just a simple fraction, but when you have everything divided by 20 million, it's always 21 million. Now you can have a constant, you can have a reliable pattern that's being developed. The important thing, again, is there's never going to be more. There can only be less, which means your asset only gets more valuable. So that's great. If things are more valuable, that's wonderful. But that's icing on the cake. That's awesome. But now at least we have a constant knowing there's only going to be 21 million. And again, in theory, yes, there could be more. I know someone's going to comment and say, well, there could be more. Yeah, there could be. But the reason that it's never happened is because no one is incentivized to dilute their own worth, their own wealth held in Bitcoin. There's zero incentive. So anyone that's doing that is only hurting themselves. That's one of the million beauties of Bitcoin, is you're incentivized to be a good actor in the system. So Bitcoin is a control, and all pricing in the world is anchored by a constant. No variables of interest rates, currency printing, etc., like we mentioned. So there will only ever be 2.1 quadrillion satoshis that exist. Those are, again, remember the divisible units, 21 million times 100 million satoshis is 2.1 quadrillion satoshis that exist. It is said that it will be rare for you to know someone who owns entire Bitcoin someday. This is for two reasons. One, because the more valuable Bitcoin becomes, the harder it will be for the average person to obtain one Bitcoin. Number two, as the economy slows, or as the economy slowly becomes hyper-Bitcoinized, people will be spending their sats, their satoshis, into the economy, which will dilute their supply, but also decentralize the supply, hardening the network even more. The only way to get sats back will be to provide value for others and merit. Oh my goodness, wow. Instead of leeching off the system and doing nothing, it incentivizes everyone to actually work. And if you actually need something, the 1% of people who actually need something in society, they will be taken care of by private organizations, by charities, by churches, by kind people all around, because their wealth will continually be going up. And people love serving, they love giving, they're good at heart. So if someone's actually in stress, you will get what you need. It's weird how life works like that. Have a little faith, right? And I'm going to put it in some calculations here of how many Bitcoin there are per person on Earth. Again, it said, there's 42 million millionaires in the world, and there's only 21 million Bitcoins. So you're going to have a lot of people fighting for it. So again, it's another reason why you're going to have the price going up over time. The price of Bitcoin going up and up, because more and more people are going to be fighting in this finite asset, which again is beautiful because the price continually goes up as more value accrues to the network. Meaning, if you continually hold your Bitcoin and hodl, hold on for dear life, over 10, 20, 50, 100 years, your life will get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, as you'll see here in a second. So I'll throw those calculations in here too. Now that we know how the math looks, let's talk about how things will be priced in satoshis someday. Just like everything has a price of US dollar on it, since the dollar is a world reserve currency, someday everything will have a price of Bitcoin or satoshis on it. The free market generally, when central banks aren't moving goalposts with interest rates and golden parachutes and currency printing, etc., determines prices, as money is just a piece of information that relays value to people throughout society. That's really all money is. It's an information transmitter. It's transmitting price discovery throughout the market. And again, central banks printing currency, interest rates, they distort all those price signals. We have no price discovery. Money is a store of your economic time and energy. That is it. For example, Laszlo 12 years ago decided, since there was no fiat price of a Bitcoin, to sell 10,000 Bitcoins for a price of a pizza. The pizza store owner agreed, and there we go. There we have a sale of two willing market participants agreeing on value and having price discovery. This then established a value for Bitcoin in the open market, a fiat US dollar price. In theory, if you take the US dollar value away, you could say that pizza owner was willing to take 10,000 Bitcoin or 1 trillion satoshis for a pizza at that time. This is how the free market will and is already repricing everything in satoshis. That we always show the graphs of what's going on and how things are being priced. And let me see here. So here's, no, I don't know where it went. Here we go. So price of a satoshi, a dollar in satoshis. Here, you see the price of the dollar just going through the floor because Bitcoin is just trashing it the last 5, 6, 7 years, however 7 years this chart goes back to 2015. So it's getting just demolished. And again, you're going to see the price of a home because prices of homes are priced in dollars right now. In Palo Alto, they just, they were doing it. It was a great little blog I'd found. And they were showing Palo Alto homes in Bitcoin over the last 10 years. Life gets much cheaper holding finite assets or finite currency. And this is what happened. If you were holding dollars and just saving in dollars your entire life, those houses just kept getting more and more and more and more expensive, meaning you had to find more of those dollars just to buy that same exact house. If you held in Bitcoin, though, it just goes to the floor and just flatlines, dang near to zero almost. And that'll just keep going into the floor and basically just become zero at some point as Bitcoin continues to rise over time, which we mathematically know will happen because people are going to have their currencies constantly devalued by governments, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, whatever, and people keep flooding to Bitcoin. And this is exactly what happens. Your life keeps getting cheaper. This is such a beautiful graph and such a beautiful representation. And knowing we have true price discovery now, we have a true mechanism, Bitcoin, to divide everything by and get true value. Because we know the price of everything in dollars. We know the value of nothing. This is showing you, Bitcoin is showing you the value right now. You will go to a vendor and buy a notebook. But instead of saying $5 on it, like we do nowadays, or we've seen for decades and decades, maybe it will still have the fiat price, and it could. Instead, it'll just say, hey, this costs 1,000 satoshis. Bingo, that's it. You just entered into hyper-Bitcoinization on the Bitcoin standard. You are now exponentially freer as you hold Bitcoin, and as your purchasing power continues to go up, governments have to, and as it goes up, like I said, governments have to continue to print and devalue their fiat currencies. So the price of Bitcoin, or I should say the value of Bitcoin, continually has to go up. And the fiat price of it has to keep going up. because the governments have to keep printing currencies. Welcome to the Bitcoin Standard. This is not an affiliate link, but here's the Amazon link to go buy the Bitcoin Standard, buy Safety and Emus for a deeper dive on the standard and what life will be like. Incredible, incredible read, going just from past, present, future of money. An incredible book. It's one of the best books out there for getting into the deeper education and just initial education and deeper education of Bitcoin and the Bitcoin Standard. Please check out other blogs and videos on the subject for a deeper look into inflation, deflation, and how we need deflation in order to do the things we want to do. Have technology, have AI, fix climate change, whatever it is, have a higher standard of living, actually have people retire and save Social Security, Medicare, all these things. I've written about these, done videos on these, how to save Social Security and all these entitlements and and going into the inflation, deflation, and everything. So fix the money, fix the world, separation of money and state. Stay strong. If you appreciate this video, please like it, share it, subscribe to the channel. And again, if you don't like it, please dislike. Please let us know what we can help do a better job of and educate you more on and provide better value and be more entertaining. So you want to stick around and learn more. Appreciate you. Your time and energy is the most important thing we have. The only finite thing we have is time, besides Bitcoin now. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.